Muscle loss with age, called sarcopenia, is real. By the time we hit our 60s, we naturally lose about 1% of our muscle mass per year. And if left unaddressed, that decline accelerates. But here's the part most people don't realize. Your body never loses the ability to build muscle. Not at 60, not at 70, not even at 80. What changes is your body's responsiveness to the same signals, primarily nutrition, resistance, and recovery. But there's a fascinating tool backed by growing clinical evidence that can amplify your body's anabolic signals naturally. It's not testosterone replacement therapy. It's not a steroid. It's an amino acid, one your body already makes, but in smaller amounts as you age. It's called creatine monohydrate, and it may be the single most underutilized, over-researched natural compound for preserving strength, muscle, and even cognitive function in older adults. Here's what the research shows. In one 12-week trial, older adults supplementing with creatine alongside resistance training saw twice the muscle growth and strength gains compared to placebo. Chilibeck et al. 2015. Other studies have linked creatine to improve muscle energy metabolism, brain health, and even reduced fatigue in aging populations. And crucially, creatine is not only effective, it's safe, inexpensive, and requires no prescription. Why does this matter? Because muscle isn't just about aesthetics or athletics. It's a metabolic organ. It regulates blood sugar, protects bone density, supports balance, and keeps you mobile and mentally sharp as you age. So today we're going to explore 6 powerful science-backed insights about building muscle after 60, including exactly how creatine works, how to use it effectively, and the habits that make it even more potent. You'll walk away with a clear, natural protocol that taps into the physiology of muscle growth, without hype, without guesswork, and without needing to feel young to get strong again. Think of your muscles as a field of soil. In youth, just a little water, a quick workout, or protein shake can trigger growth. But as we age, the soil becomes less fertile. The same small stimulus doesn't yield the same results. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance, and it's one of the core reasons muscle growth slows with age. But let's be clear, slows doesn't mean stops. The switch for muscle building still exists in your body. It just requires a stronger signal. Muscle growth is governed by a process called muscle protein synthesis, MPS. Your body's way of repairing and building stronger muscle fibers in response to stress, primarily resistance training, and amino acid intake, especially the amino acid leucine. In younger adults, even a moderate stimulus like walking or eating a basic meal with protein can stimulate MPS. But after 60, the response blunts. According to research from Moore et al. In 2015, older adults show about a 25 to 30% reduced anabolic response to the same amount of protein compared to younger individuals. So what does this mean in practice? You need to increase the volume, intensity, or quality of the signal. That can be done in 3 key ways. Resistance training with progressive overload, regular strength training, 2 to 3 sessions per week, that gradually increases load, challenges large muscle groups, and focuses on compound movements like squats, rows, and presses, sends a mechanical signal that says, we need more muscle here. The key is not intensity, but consistency and progression. A higher quality protein in the right dose and timing. Aim for 30 to 40 grams of high leucine protein like whey, eggs, or lean meats per meal. Spacing this across 3 meals helps maintain a more constant anabolic environment. A study from Breen and Phillips, 2011, found that this approach, higher dose protein per meal, optimizes MPS in older adults better than simply eating more total protein sporadically. Amplification through creatine. This is where creatine enters the picture. Creatine helps regenerate ATP, the energy currency of your muscle cells, during short bursts of activity. But more importantly, it enhances the cellular hydration state, which acts as a growth signal. Think of creatine as adding nutrients to the soil, making the field more responsive to the water and sunlight you're already applying. Let me offer a real-world analogy. Imagine you're trying to grow a garden after a drought. The soil is dry and compacted, like an aging muscle. A small sprinkle of water, a light walk, or a small amount of protein won't penetrate. But if you till the soil with resistance training, water deeply through high-protein meals, and fertilize it with creatine, the growth can begin again, often faster than expected. This reframing is crucial. Many people over 60 have been led to believe that muscle loss is inevitable and strength is something you say goodbye to. But when you understand that the system still works, just with different settings, it puts the power back in your hands, a simple tool to apply today. If you haven't already, start with 2 full body resistance sessions per week, even with just body weight or resistance bands. Pair each workout with a 30-gram protein meal within 2 hours, ideally one that includes whey or eggs. Begin tracking your protein intake per meal, not just per day. Small changes here yield major results over time. The bottom line is this: age slows the response, not the potential. Muscle is still made the same way. Signal, synthesize, repeat. Your job is to turn up the volume on the signal. And with the right tools, that's completely within your control. If there were a compound that could increase muscular energy, support brain function, improve recovery, and slow aspects of aging, and if it were naturally occurring, inexpensive, and extensively studied, you'd think everyone over 60 would be taking it. That compound exists. It's called creatine monohydrate, and it might be one of the most powerful, least appreciated tools for aging well. Let's start with what creatine actually does. Creatine is a naturally occurring compound found in your muscles and brain. Its primary job is to help regenerate ATP, the molecule your body uses for short bursts of cellular energy. Think of ATP like the battery pack your muscles and neurons draw from when they need to perform quickly and powerfully. But here's the catch. As we age, our natural creatine stores decline, and our ability to quickly regenerate ATP slows down. That means muscles fatigue faster, recovery takes longer, and high-effort movements like climbing stairs or lifting a suitcase feel more taxing. What supplementing with creatine does is refill your muscle and brain energy with full creatine stores. Your cells regenerate ATP faster. That means improved strength and power output during resistance training, better muscle recovery between workouts, enhanced muscle cell hydration, which itself acts as a growth signal, and remarkably, neuroprotective effects, because your brain, like your muscles, relies on creatine for energy. In one study by Kandau et al., 2008, older adults who supplemented with creatine during a resistance training program gained significantly more lean muscle and strength compared to those on placebo. Another study, McMorris et al., 2007, showed cognitive benefits, including improved memory and mental fatigue resistance, particularly in older adults under stress. Even more encouraging, the safety profile of creatine is excellent. Decades of research show no harmful effects on kidney, liver, or heart health when used at recommended doses in healthy individuals. Yet despite all this, creatine is often misunderstood, seen as something just for bodybuilders or young athletes. The reality? It may be more beneficial for people over 60 than anyone else. Let me put this in perspective. If you're doing the right training and eating enough high quality protein, but still not seeing muscle gains or feeling mentally sharp, creatine is like the catalyst that brings everything into alignment. It doesn't replace hard work. It makes your effort more effective. A simple tool to apply is this. Start with a daily dose of 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. No need to cycle, load, or complicate things. Consistency is what matters. Take it any time of day, though pairing it with your post-workout meal may provide synergy with insulin and protein uptake. Now, if this insight is helping you rethink what's possible, especially when it comes to aging with strength and energy, consider subscribing. This channel is here to translate cutting-edge science into clear, usable action steps that help you take control of your health. Here's something empowering to remember. Creatine doesn't give you muscle or cognition. It gives your cells the capacity to express what you've already trained and nourished. It's not a shortcut, it's an amplifier. And after 60, amplification matters. So while creatine is not magic, its effects often feel magical, especially when you start to move with more power, think more clearly, and recover faster than you thought possible. Now we're looking at what creatine can't do alone, and why protein becomes an even more critical piece of the puzzle as we age. There's a common misconception that older adults should eat less protein to protect their kidneys or heart. But the science tells a very different and much more empowering story. After 60, your muscles aren't broken, but they are less responsive to the usual growth signals. This is called anabolic resistance. And overcoming it requires not just more effort in the gym, but more precision in the kitchen, especially when it comes to protein. Let's break down why. Protein is made up of amino acids, the building blocks of muscle. Among these, leucine plays a starring role in triggering muscle protein synthesis, MPS. Think of leucine as the foreman on a construction site. It tells your body, start building. But with age, your muscles become less sensitive to leucine's signal. A meal that would spark muscle growth at 30 might barely maintain muscle at 65. That's why the recommended dietary allowance, RDA, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, is not sufficient for older adults aiming to preserve or build muscle. Here's what the research shows. According to the Pro-Age Study Group, Bauer et al., 2013, adults over 60 should aim for 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, nearly double the RDA. Even more important is the distribution of that protein across meals. A study by Mamaro et al., 34 pounds of protein intake, e.g. 30g at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, resulted in 25% more muscle synthesis than skewed intake, e.g. very little at breakfast, heavy at dinner. So what does this look like practically? Let's say you weigh 150 pounds, about 68 kg. That means your target protein intake is around 90 to 110 grams per day. Split that into 3 meals and you're aiming for 30 to 35 grams per meal, ideally with at least 2 to 3 grams of leucine per serving. Here's how to hit that. A post-workout shake with 25g whey protein rich in leucine, a breakfast of 3 eggs plus Greek yogurt, 30 to 35g total, a lunch or dinner with 5 to 6 O's of lean chicken, fish, or tofu, plus legumes or quinoa. And don't forget, creatine works synergistically with protein. It helps improve energy availability for muscle contractions and supports post-exercise recovery, amplifying the benefit of each high-protein meal when used consistently. A simple tool to apply. Use a free tracking app or journal to log your protein intake for a week. Start noticing not just how much protein you eat, but when. Adjust your meals so that each contains at least 30 grams and build around high leucine sources like whey, eggs, chicken, or soy. You might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of food, but here's a key insight. As we age, we actually need fewer calories overall, but more protein per calorie. It's not about eating more, it's about eating smarter. And if you're plant-based, it's still possible. You'll just need to be more intentional, combining legumes with grains like lentils and rice, using soy products, and possibly incorporating a plant-based protein supplement to meet your leucine threshold. The message here is simple but critical. Protein becomes medicine for your muscles after 60, and when dosed precisely, it becomes one of the most effective natural interventions for aging with strength, stability, and vitality. Now we'll shift from the nutritional lens to a broader physiological one, exploring how muscle mass itself acts as a metabolic shield, protecting not just your strength, but your heart, bones, immune system, and brain. Most people think of muscle as something cosmetic, something that helps you look toned, maybe move a bit easier, carry groceries without strain. But muscle is much more than movement. It's not just strength. It's a metabolic shield, a living, active tissue that protects nearly every system in your body as you age. Let's unpack that. Muscle is your body's largest glucose sink, meaning it helps absorb and use the sugars from the food you eat. When you have more lean muscle, your insulin sensitivity improves, helping regulate blood sugar levels and reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, Srikanthan and Karlamangla, 2011, found that higher muscle mass in older adults was associated with significantly lower insulin resistance, independent of body fat percentage. In simpler terms, muscle doesn't just burn calories, it manages energy more efficiently, acting like a metabolic buffer that keeps your blood sugar in check. But that's not all. Skeletal muscle is also a reservoir of amino acids that your body can draw upon during illness or injury. A key player in immune system regulation, producing anti-elemika myokines during exercise. A protector of bone density through mechanical loading. Strong muscles equals strong bones. And even a predictor of longevity. Multiple studies, e.g. Newman et al., 2006, have shown that low muscle mass is correlated with higher mortality in older adults, especially when combined with low grip strength. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how a small injury, like a fall or minor illness, seems to hit older people harder than expected? That's often because they lack physiological reserve. They've lost so much muscle mass, sometimes as much as 1% to 2% per year after 50, that their bodies can't mount a strong enough recovery response. This condition is known as sarcopenia, and it affects up to 50% of adults over 80. But here's the hopeful part. Sarcopenia is not inevitable. In many cases, it's reversible with the right exercise, nutrition, and supplementation protocols. A tool to apply today is this. Start measuring your strength, not just your weight. Track how many push-ups, squats, or stair climbs you can do now. Use those numbers as a baseline and check back every 6 to 8 weeks. Because here's the thing. Muscle is one of the few biomarkers of aging that you can actually reverse. Not slow, reverse. And that's why creatine and protein aren't just tools for the gym, they're tools for life extension, disease prevention, and independence. Let's bring this down to real life for a moment. Imagine a 72-year-old woman who starts doing resistance band training twice a week, increases her protein at breakfast and lunch, and begins supplementing with 5 grams of creatine daily. Within 3 months, she notices she's walking faster, getting up from chairs more easily, and sleeping better. Her doctor notices improved blood pressure and lower A1C. Her bones are more stable. Her inflammation markers go down. That's not hypothetical, that's documented. Studies like Kandau et al. 2019 and Chilibek et al. Have consistently shown that resistance training plus creatine in older adults leads to improved strength, reduced fall risk, and enhanced metabolic function. So if you're building muscle after 60, you're not just improving how you move, you're building a metabolic fortress around your brain, heart, immune system, and bones. And if that resonates with you, if you're finding value in how science can become a strategy, consider subscribing. This channel is here to serve people who want to age with strength, clarity, and control. Now, we'll get practical. What does a realistic weekly protocol look like? How much training, how much rest, and how to combine everything you've learned into a repeatable rhythm. We've talked about creatine. We've talked about protein. We've talked about how muscle isn't just about strength, it's about survival. But theory alone won't change your body. You need a system, something that fits your life, honors your biology, and actually gets done each week. That system? It comes down to 3 key elements: resistance, recovery, routine. Let's start with resistance. Muscle only grows in response to demand. It doesn't matter how much protein or creatine you take. If you're not challenging your muscles, they won't grow. That's why resistance training is the cornerstone. But here's the good news. The stimulus doesn't need to be extreme. In fact, for people over 60, consistency beats intensity. Research from Fiatarone et al., 1994, landmark study, showed that even frail 90-year-olds in nursing homes were able to increase muscle mass and strength with simple progressive resistance training. Here's a practical weekly structure. 2 to 3 days per week of full body resistance training. Focus on compound movements, squats or chair sits, push-ups or wall presses, rows or resistance bands, and deadlifts. Aim for 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, using a load that feels challenging by the last few reps. Progress by adding reps, resistance, or range of motion over time. Now let's talk recovery. Muscle is broken down during training, but built during recovery. This means that sleep, nutrition, hydration, and rest days are part of the program, not just afterthoughts. Here's what the research and real-world experience suggest. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Your brain and muscle tissue rely on deep sleep for growth hormone release. Stay hydrated. Even mild dehydration reduces performance and slows recovery. On non-training days, stay active, go for walks, stretch, or do light yoga to support circulation and mobility. A simple tool to apply. Treat your rest days as active recovery days, not full stops, that keeps your metabolism humming and maintains your routine momentum. Which brings us to the final pillar, routine. This is where most programs fail, not because they're ineffective, but because they're unsustainable. The secret is to design your weekly plan like a minimum effective dose protocol. Here's a sample week for someone 60 plus who wants to build strength naturally. Monday, resistance training plus creatine plus protein-rich meals. Tuesday, walk plus mobility work plus hydration. Wednesday, resistance training plus 7 to 9 hours sleep. Thursday, light cardio, bike, swim, walk plus optional core or stretch. Friday, resistance training plus post-workout shake plus evening wind down. Saturday, nature walk or play with grandkids. Sunday, full rest or light yoga plus prep meals for the week. Notice the balance, train, recover, repeat. You're not chasing perfection. You're building a repeatable rhythm that adapts with your life. And just like circadian rhythms guide your sleep-wake cycles, training rhythms guide your muscular adaptation. You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters consistently. Now, if this protocol is helping you see what's possible, if it's giving you a structure you can trust, hit that like button or share it with someone who needs a clear, empowering path forward. This community exists to make science practical, and let's bring everything together, connecting the science, the supplements, and the systems into a single reflection. You'll walk away not just with knowledge, but with a challenge to try just one tool this week and feel the difference in your body and mind. By now, you've heard the science. Creatine works. Protein matters. Resistance training rebuilds. Muscle protects your mind, your metabolism, and your mobility. But here's the psychological hurdle. Most people over 60 don't start. They think they've missed the window. They think it's too late. They think they need perfect conditions, the right gym, the right gear, the perfect plan. But here's the truth. Backed by both behavioral science and human biology, change doesn't start big. It starts consistent. In fact, research on behavior change from B.J. Fogg at Stanford University shows that tiny, consistent actions, when repeated and emotionally rewarding, are the most effective way to create lasting habits. You don't need motivation to do something small. You just need a prompt and a path. So what does that look like for muscle growth after 60? It could be as simple as adding 1 scoop of creatine to your morning coffee or tea, starting your day with 3 body weight squats and 5 wall push-ups, eating a high-protein breakfast 3 times this week instead of skipping it, taking a 10-minute walk after dinner to support digestion and insulin sensitivity. Because what's happening in your brain and body when you do this is powerful. You're reinforcing self-efficacy, the belief that you can take action and make change. You're creating dopaminergic reinforcement, small wins that light up your reward circuitry and make you want to keep going. And you're training your brain to identify as someone who invests in their strength, not just someone who reacts to aging. Let me ask you this. Who are you becoming with each small choice? You might not notice a huge difference after the first week, but give it 30 days of consistent effort, and suddenly your body starts feeling more stable, your energy steadier, your confidence more grounded. And in 6 months, you're lifting heavier, sleeping deeper, recovering faster, moving better, thinking clearer. That's not hype. That's neurobiology meets muscle physiology. And it's accessible at any age. Consider this. A meta-analysis published in Aging Research Reviews, Lopez et al., 2021, show that older adults who began resistance training, even in their 70s and 80s, saw significant improvements in muscle strength, mobility, and quality of life, often within just 12 weeks. The window isn't closed, the door is still wide open. And small steps, repeated with intention, lead to compounding results. A tool to apply is this. Choose one habit from everything we've discussed. Just one. Do it for the next 7 days straight. No negotiations, no perfectionism. And then pause and reflect what changed. How did you feel? What's the next step? Because you're not trying to transform your body overnight. You're laying down one brick at a time, building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself with each rep, each bite of protein, each scoop of creatine. And along the way, you're rewiring your identity. You're becoming someone who moves with intention, fuels with purpose, and ages on your own terms. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. That's how all strength is built, physically and mentally. Now we'll bring this all together. I'll walk you through the key takeaways and leave you with a clear next step, a challenge to put this into motion, and a sincere invitation to join a community that's walking the same path. Muscle at its core isn't just tissue. It's time. It's freedom. It's the physical reserve that allows you to pick up your grandchild, carry your groceries, walk upstairs, recover from illness, and move through the world with strength, not fragility. And what the research shows, what science now confirms beyond debate, is this. You can build muscle at any age, especially after 60. You are not too old. You are not too far gone. You are not past your peak. Your biology is waiting for a signal, and you have the tools to send it. Let's recap what we've covered. First, creatine is one of the most studied, safest, and most effective supplements available today, especially for older adults. It supports strength, recovery, brain energy, and cell hydration. Just 3 to 5 grams per day consistently can tip the scale in your favor. Second, protein matters more as you age, not less. Your body becomes less efficient at using it, which means the amount and timing become critical. Aim for 30 to 40 grams per meal, starting with breakfast. This supports both muscle synthesis and energy stability. Third, muscle is your metabolic shield. It protects your brain, bones, blood sugar, and immune system. The more lean mass you carry, the better your chances of aging with clarity, confidence, and control. Fourth, training doesn't need to be extreme. It needs to be consistent. 2 to 3 days per week of simple full-body resistance work is enough. Add in recovery, hydration, and rest, and your body will respond. Fifth, start small. Choose one habit, stick with it for a week. Let that success create momentum. Your nervous system learns by experience, not by motivation. And finally, your future is shaped by what you repeat. The strongest version of you, physically, emotionally, neurologically, isn't found in a supplement bottle, a gym membership, or single YouTube video. It's found in your habits, in your decisions, in the way you wake up tomorrow and choose to do something, no matter how small. That makes you stronger. So here's your challenge. Pick one tool from this video. Maybe it's adding creatine to your morning coffee. Maybe it's doing 10 squats after brushing your teeth. Maybe it's having a protein-rich breakfast instead of skipping it. Whatever it is, do it for 7 days. Track how you feel. Then decide, not based on motivation or theory, but based on experience. Because the science is clear, the path is simple, and your brain and body are more adaptable than you've been told. If this message resonated, if you felt seen, understood, or equipped with something you can use, I'd love for you to join this community. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below sharing your starting point. What's your one tool for the week? This channel is built for people like you, people who believe in evidence over hype and who want to age with strength, agency, and wisdom. The muscle you build now will protect everything you value later, and it starts today. 1 rep, 1 scoop, 1 step at a time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.